Hello, my name is Rob McLeod. I'm the president and CEO of Blackwolf Copper and Gold. We trade on the TSX Venture Exchange, BWCG. We are an explorer and advanced developer working in Southeast Alaska. Our flagship project is the Niblack Copper, Gold, Silver, Zinc VMS deposit. And we also have a pipeline of exploration properties on the Alaska side of the Golden Triangle outside of my hometown of Stewart, BC.
Rob, good to have you back on. It's been 12 months. Where have you been? What have you been doing?
Well, for the first half, I was hiding out due to COVID, but otherwise, I've been
second half hiding out because of markets. It's been a tough year.
Having disgruntled shareholders chasing you around. But we've been actively advancing the company to where we want to go. And I'm particularly excited, even though I love our Niblack VMS project, which we just recently received some permits to drill. But advancing these projects in the Golden Triangle is what really has got me going.
Okay, and to be fair to you, when we met 12 months ago, I think we kind of got to a point where we agreed that perhaps Niblack was never going to be able to scale to be of meaningful interest. And you were going to have to either go and buy something or find something. And I think you've been busy on that front. So just for my sake, last 12 months have involved you doing what? Because you raised money, what was it? Something about 5.3 in 2020. You've raised 5.8 in 2021, and you just raised another 2.5 now. Just kind of keeping the story on the road, it seems, to allow you to make these, to do these deals, right? Is that unfair? Is that fair reflection of what you've been trying to do?
Well, it's absolutely fair. So Niblack is it's an advanced project. It's 5.6 million tons of indicated and 3.4 million tons of inferred, with significant infrastructure. There's underground workings. There's dock, camp, facility, water treatment facilities. These advanced projects do have to be honest, they can have a high burn. It's not just an exploration property. So you have the costs that are associated. In particular, this project was idle for 10 years. So we needed to replace pilings in the dock. We needed to rehabilitate the underground. We needed to put in a new camp to set us up for future success. But it was also based on our first 2 rounds of drilling. We had tremendous success based on our new geological model. And then we're like, okay, let's really grow this thing. We can see a potential how to get this project to 30 million tons. Let's be set up in an opportunity to do that. So as it stands right now, the other thing that's happened is metal prices have gone up. Maybe they've fallen back a little bit over the past couple of weeks, but the sensitivities of high grade underground projects to metal prices are pretty highly leveraged.
Well, so but last time we were talking about you talked about what I'm trying to work out is the thought process in the head. You were really honest with me last time and said, we know this isn't perfect, but it's something, and at some point it may have some value, but we know what we need to go away and do, right? And you raised a chunk of money in the middle of last year, and you just recently raised a little bit more, probably not in a market that you wanted to, because the cost of that money is going to be, well, more than it was. Let's put it like that. You're at 117 when we spoke last time. You're at 40 cents now. Just the nature of the market, and everyone's in the same boat. But I'm kind of interested in that sort of transition from trying to retain and sell the value component to Niblack, but knowing that it probably didn't have the legs to go the whole way. And how do you go about finding the types of deals and types of projects which you think could be better, right? Because that's the name of the game, right? So talk to me about that.
100%. And it's look, based on my recent experience, we all look to learn from what we've done well in previous roles and what we did not so well. And in my past company, which was called IDM Mining, which was not so recently now, was acquired in 2018 by Ascot Resources. The deposit was too small to really capture the market's attention. And where what you're alluding to is certainly what's part of our long-term vision is these projects that, don't have the big scale really to get, the multi-billion-dollar leverage that a lot of the majors are looking for is how can you change that short of making new discoveries. And so what is our long-term vision is to combine Niblack with other deposits. So have we been making progress there? Yes, but nothing has been signed. One of the projects we'd look at doing is, our opportunities, is to find a mill site that will be able to take Niblack ore that is located close to tidewater. Niblack's got a great location right on the ocean. And so we have identified sites in Canada that have permits. And if we can take the ore there through marine transport, which is commonly used in the forestry business and aggregate business, using barges, and combine it with other, deposits that aren't quite there, either in Southeast Alaska or Northwest BC, you have a tremendous business model. And so, the economics do work. The stakeholders see, would you sooner have multiple mines and multiple tailings facilities, or would you sooner see multiple mines and one mill and tailings facility? But
that's my point, Rob. Again, from last time out, we talked about the barging, and it's kind of fine, right? But it's of a type, it's of a scale, and yeah, you can make it work. But the more moving parts are, the more things can go wrong. And you knew the type of project that you wanted to go after. So I'm more intrigued about what did that profile look like? What have you done about it? What are you going to do about it? Because you've raised some money, and you've announced that you're raising some money. I don't know if it's closed yet, but that's going to be used to what end? What have you been selling on that front?
So you can still have a long-term vision that is about development, but look, you've seen the markets. What moves stocks now? Do development stories? No, development stories are the worst of the worst. So do we want to do that in this market? No, you have to pivot. And so what does somewhat move? Exploration. And so as we've, looked at, we have looked at lots of other M&A opportunities, but trying to get that right fit that will protect the value for our shareholders. We've got good structure with only 31 million out. No, we did not pull the trigger. Will we in the future? Absolutely. Because this really, really makes sense on so many levels. So pivoting, what are we going to do? Is we are going to drill. And, Niblack it's of a good size. It has tons of potential. We think that we can double or triple the size of the ore body down the road through good focused exploration. And the other is being opportunistic. That's why we went out and we staked rather than acquired, these 4 new properties in Southeast Alaska. And keep in mind, in federal lands in the United States, these are expensive claims to stake and maintain. It's one of the reasons why there's been no modern exploration, is because we've had to go out and stake hundreds and hundreds of federal claims. And there is a cost to that. And what has that brought us? Well, it's the opportunity to hit it out of the park. And so pivoting towards exploration, but still, and most of our big shareholders and investors still like and are in that stock for the long-term vision. But what's really going to move it? It's results, man. It's not having a great vision. It's going to be people want to see rock in the box.
Right. Okay. So I forgot about the 2.8 you raised in December as well. So it's going to burning through cash because it's, well, I'm not quite sure why, but do you know what you've got to do next? So you say you've got to deliver. So you're going to start a drill program? Maybe we start with that and then go from there. What do you plan?
Yeah, and so just declare, since you're to get to the point for expenditures, is again, Niblack is an advanced project. It is like a mine site. There's a big tunnel that goes a kilometer into the mountain, and there's water that we have to treat, and and a site to maintain. There's a large dock where we had to replace some of the pilings and stuff. All of this comes with a cost. You look at most advanced projects, and they have that. So I want to make that part clear. Secondly, it's to maintain and to stake these new claims, big money. So I won't sugarcoat that aspect to working on U.S. federal claims in Alaska. It's the same if you're in Idaho or Nevada.
Okay, so but just on the running costs, because having this former infrastructure into an underground mine is, on paper it should be sound like an asset, but at the moment with a company of your size, where you have a 15 million market cap, and you've raised a bit of money recently, but you're kind of burning through it a lot quicker than you want to. So how do you kind of pitch that as an asset in a market like this, or do we need to look further down the line?
So you absolutely have to look at what the real value of that asset should be, which is way higher than what it is today. It is where you've got millions of tons of bulk mineable polymetallic excellent metallurgy within the ground. And so we a year and a half ago we were trading at $1.50. Why? Because we're delivering some great results. We wanted to really keep some traction and keep on going with that, but we stalled out. And so
because of COVID, or because of what?
So it's you don't want a convenient spot to blame is with government, and in this case, we've been waiting for permits. We made a new discovery in December of 2020. We announced the results in the spring of last year, 2021. Our highlight hole was 7.6 meters of over 10% copper equivalent, mostly in copper. A new interpretation of an old mine, and it's wide open for expansion, but it goes on to federal claims that we needed to permit. And it's the nature again of working in this area. It took over a year to get the permits there. So then what did we do? What else did we do on surface exploration at our hydro projects? We went out and we made some new discoveries. And so I can't understate maybe many it's never a discovery until you get a drill hole in it. But we went and worked these new claims, and we discovered, as I've said, the best drill target that I've seen in my career. That's freaking something, and it's not cheap as well too. You got to, you have surface crews out there that need to go and sample in rugged terrain.
Let's talk about this freaking thing then. When you say it's the best ever, what are you seeing there now? Given you've been at it well, given your previous success, when you describe something like that, you're then going to have to deliver. So you can't overstate, right? So what leads you to believe this is awesome?
The heck out of it, Matt. So because let me tell you kind of a little bit of the background of it. And so in the middle of COVID, I was going through a bunch of my dad's old files. He was a third generation miner from this part of the world. And he had some photos, including one, which is remarkable. It's a photo looking outside of this ice tunnel. And the story behind this property is called Solo. Was some prospectors in the 1930s were near an ice sheet on the top of a mountain in Alaska. And found these spectacular seams of electrum, which is a gold and silver alloy. And so these veins it couldn't have come far because you're near the top of the mountain. So these crazy old timers were literally tunneling through the ice at the base of the glacier looking for the source of this gold. And it's on our website, there's a story, it's called Glacier Gold. And so the really, really high grade electrum values that you get in the Golden Triangle are typical for the world-class deposits that you see there. Eskay Creek, the early years of the Premier Mine. If you go to the Science Museum in London, you can see spectacular electrum and sulfosalts, just beautiful veins. And Bruce Jack, which is actually, it's talk about family roots, that's named after my cousin and after my grandfather. Super nuggety gold deposit known for these electrums. So they're tunneling, and they actually ended up finding one of these veins, pulled 330 ounces of gold out of 700 pounds of rock, and then they got the heck out of there. So the ice is long gone, and that's the original reason why we staked. So pivoting to now, as we started working in this area, an old timer who grew up in Hyder gave me some old files from the 1920s and 30s. One included a map for a property called Cantoo. And it talked about 2 aerial tram lines, which I know the history really well. I didn't know about these. And multiple stacked veins, including what they called the 100-foot wide vein. And I said, that's BS. Like, I would have known, you could promote back in the 1920s like you do today. So we flew over in a helicopter, and there, sitting in the cliff, there's a 100-foot wide quartz vein breccia, literally right across the border from Ascot's redevelopment of the Premier Gold Project. Couldn't believe it. It's all rusty. You can see all the quartz, and it's in a cliff. So at the bottom of the cliff, and actually, we have some pretty good climbing geologists that have worked for us. We found all this quartz with high-grade mineralization, including, it's a really important one, is called polybasite. It's a copper silver sulfosalt mineral, and sampling, plus 1,000 gram per ton silver and close to ounce per ton gold and high-grade copper. So this has never been drilled. As soon as I was looking at it, we're like, we have to drill this thing. This is incredible. It was one of these projects, despite great access next to a producing mine, just happens to have been missed. And why? Because it's in some pretty steep terrain. And so our plan is to go above the cliffs that host those high-grade gold and silver veins and drill some holes down.
Okay, so you ask it on one side. So you got Canada. This is right, literally on the border, right?
It's literally on the border. You can see the cut line. My crew is out there this weekend,
right?
And you are literally right across the border in Canada on federal claims.
If this is on Canadian soil, would it have been an easier process for you, certainly in terms of the timeline?
Yeah, and it probably would have had 1,000 drill holes and maybe even been mined out. So
true.
You can raise flow through in Canada, and it's like I'm still really surprised. And if it wasn't for these old maps and this old timer, I wouldn't have known about it. I probably drove past that mountain 100 times, thinking that there was nothing there.
Okay, so I kind of want to simplify the story here, because I think last time I did a summary after we spoke, and I said that you're a good guy, smart guy, but you know what you've got, and you know what you've got to go and do, and in terms of finding new opportunities. It sounds like with the sampling that you did last year at like Cantoo, for example, you're onto something, but the market hasn't reacted to it. And it's not just a case of, the market's come off in the last 5-6 months. It's been a decline since, pretty much since we spoke last year because of the permitting issues. So you've got, what permits have you got, and what more will you need to get? Will there always be this kind of lag in the kind of permitting process for you? And will it kind of impinge on your ability to do things the way that you want to?
I won't sugarcoat it that it's difficult on Forest Service lands in the United States. At Niblack, no, because now we have the permits in place, and this isn't unique to us. There's like over on the Niblack side, there's a prospect called Dama that has a famous intercept of 19 meters of 6% copper that was drilled in 1994. It has not been followed up since then. Why? It took a long time to permit. And so at Hyder, the Hyder area properties at Cantoo, we submitted, knowing that it takes a while, our permit applications in late 2020. And we are told that we might even get them this week. So once you have the permit, excuse me.
To do what?
Permits
mean what? I mean, like I say, there's multiple permits companies have to get. So permit to do what?
These are permits to drill.
Okay.
To drill and to cut helicopter pads, to cut line, to do geophysical sampling, to make a surface disturbance that is larger than 4 acres.
Right.
And so this is the same and it's a incredibly comprehensive review process, a really good process that the U.S. Department of Interior does. So is this indicative of what you could face for future mines? Absolutely. Like, some challenges in Alaska, such as Trilogy metals, and certainly Pebble is a whole different world. But it takes a while. It's like look in Idaho at a lot of these projects that have been years and years in the permitting process.
So how do you get ahead of it? How do you get ahead of it? Okay, because money, time, and time's money. Do you know what? Let's keep it simple. Just a Cantoo, because you're quoting some big numbers from the samples there. Over 34 grams per ton of gold and over sort of 2,900 grams of silver and 5.8 of copper. People will get excited about them. They're just samples, but nevertheless, the permit says helicopter pads, and you can drill, and so. But give us the number of meters. How many dollars? What's the time frame? And will it give you enough information to go and get the market excited about the potential of what you're doing, or will you need to go and raise more money soon?
So for Cantoo, our plan would be to drill 2,000 meters, and will it get the market excited? That's why we drill the holes, man. It's if you can make a new discovery, and in the Golden Triangle, there are excellent recent examples of discoveries, particularly of similar systems. This looks to be a flat-lying breccia vein, which is typical for the development projects at Premier for Ascot. If you're familiar with Goliath Resources, they made a new discovery at something called Sherbet. It looks really, really similar to that. Flat-lying structures, similar sort of values that you see on surface, and was a recent discovery. So once the permits are in place, we are good for years and years to keep on drilling. But it is, it's a similar story for friends and colleagues that work in for other companies working on federal lands. So it's also the opportunity. It's you have to be patient. And since many don't know how to work in this type of these type of lands, it's the reason why there's been no work done out here since the 20s and 30s.
There's no retail investors that are patient. They don't exist. So let's again. I want to focus on
in the junior world.
In the junior world, right? So okay. So we're going to kind of put Niblack kind of aside. You sort of know how you're going to pace forward with that one. With Cantoo, I'm going to stick with Cantoo. So this 100-meter. 100-foot vein. What's the kind of profile? What do you know of it? I mean, is that sort of sheeting down? I mean, will you expect to find more of them? Because you've got limited data at the moment. So how do you go about doing the stuff that gets the market excited versus the stuff that says, well, actually, potentially, here's the scale of this thing going forward? So,
we rely on a lot of really good quality historical work. And, I love mining old data and old reports, particularly from the era of the 20s and 30s, because the geological descriptions were so well done and so detailed. So in the case of Cantoo, it was a small scale past producer of direct shipping ore. There were 2 veins that were accessed using aerial tram lines. I'll be posting some photos shortly on our Twitter page where you can see where these cables go up. And then you can see the tunnels and the veins outcropping into cliffs. So they're stacked. They are shallowly dipping into the mountain. And they are, a similar orientation to the Big Missouri and Silver Coin mines that are currently, they're historic producers, but in redevelopment by Ascot. So you have this wealth of information on the Canadian side of the border, these snippets of historical information, and then what we can observe with our own eyes and myself with my experience from working in this area. So all of this gets worked together into a drill target. So you drill some holes in it, and it is there. Does it pinch out? Does it get bigger? You don't know until you put it in. But I do tell you, they, in fact, I was just reading a cute newspaper story where the first year of production here, they would just take the boulders that had fallen off the cliff and direct ship those to mills and smelters. No blasting required.
Okay, but let's talk about today, which is you've got some idea of what's going on there. You've got some historic data. Do you? Because like I say, you guys are going to play this a certain way, right? So you can say, well, do we need to validate some of this historic data? Do we re-drill holes? Do we twin holes? Do we actually just do our own targets and then wrap the old data around it to give a kind of bigger view of what the potential is? I mean, how do you plan something like that? Because 2,000 meters, I don't know how deep are these holes? How many holes will we be talking about here with 2,000 meters?
So there'll be, 2 to 400 meter holes. So there'll maybe be 6. And so let's just see what it looks like. Re-drill it. This has never been drilled. There's been no modern work that has been done here or on any of the other properties. And there's tons of targets. Not whatsoever.
One. Okay. Not one. Okay. Sorry. I thought that might be so not one drill bit. So when you say you love all this historic data, it's of what nature? Sorry. Didn't kind of catch that.
So it's from old reports where they describe the nature of the veins and of the mineralogy and, widths and that sort of important information. For example, I mentioned the polybasite, but these are hosted, and I'm not sure why, there's a lot of barite, there's a lot of tin, there's some unusual elemental compositions to the samples that we see in our samples that suggest that there is something really interesting. So, it's similar to a bunch of the other prospects that we have also in the Hyder area. These were really well described historic reports, some from the 1990s, but most from the 20s, all by U.S. Department of Mine geologists.
Right. And when does this program start? I guess after you've closed this non-brokered raise that you've announced.
Yes, correct. Well, we have crews on the ground now that are doing some further sampling. We also staked some more claims recently just to the south, another target called Mineral Hill. Again, finding some old data and some old maps of high-grade gold in veins in historic trenches. And so, still doing a first pass recon and working up some other prospects to the drill ready status in the Hyder area. And we should be closing this financing imminently as tough markets and chasing everybody to get their subscription agreements in, but with a full unit deal and giving the cheap valuation for the company, it's been a hard sell, but it certainly hasn't been an impossible one. So I'm really grateful for the support of our big and new investors in this deal.
Right, like who's come in on this?
So our largest institutional holder is Delbrook Capital. There are several other. Actually, a lot of money has come out of Europe. Did some marketing just prior to the to kind of things falling apart in the markets in late May, and so people love the story. They like me and my team, and they like the discovery potential for both the Hyder area properties and for Niblack, and they like our long-term vision for hub and spoke. So is it a tough sell? Heck yeah. But is it a good deal for these investors coming in? I believe it will be.
So, I mean, obviously, there's not too many companies rushing to get into the market at the moment. But are there other options available to you in terms of capital if this market continues much longer?
There's other things that can get into trouble, like converts and stuff like that. But that's the nature of the junior business. Is we will, of course, we'll have to go to the market again. We have other catalysts as well too. We're updating our resource estimate. So we just had our independent QP, Gilles Arsenault, was on site last week, and so we look to have that out shortly. And we believe that will be a nice catalyst to move things along as well. And again, we're still working on some of the corporate development stuff. So we hope that there could be another deal that would allow us to raise more capital.
Okay, and so are Crescat still in this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're absolutely. They're in fact the biggest advocate for the hub and spoke, number one, and number two, since they were early investors into Goliath Resources, and it's such a similar story, is that in terms of priorities, is to put some holes into Cantoo because it looks so similar.
Okay, here, and there's a generic question, right? So you referenced convertible bonds. I agree with you, by the way. Why do you say they can get you into trouble? Is it the stage of company, i.e. exploration companies, that you feel pre-revenue, or is it the market? Or why do you say that? Make that statement?
So even if it's a very friendly and supportive shareholder, is that the perception of having a convertible is that you are going to get squeezed down the road. It scares away investors. I absolutely think it should be a reasonable way for, particularly in poor markets, for junior companies to finance. But it's anything else such as debt or anything else, like, no way, man. It's through the issuing of equity is how these things get funded. We don't cash flow. You can sell properties. If we do have some success in the Hyder area properties, maybe we do something such as a spin out. Is it a fit with Niblack? Not really. If the hub and spoke thing gets moving, is maybe we should spin that out and dividend it out either to shareholders or to the company. That is another way to fund. And so, but it's like most other juniors out there, we're going to the well now, and I can 100% guarantee we'll be doing it again in the future. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I prefer you being blunt and honest, which you always have been. Like I said, I agree with you with regards to converts for pre-revenue, or even if revenue's even 3 years away, or you feel revenue to be 3 years away, I think it's problematic. Spin-outs, again, I guess you have to see how the market reacts to a conversation like that one. But you've got to be nimble and agile, don't you? Look, Rob, I just wanted to kind of dip in again and catch up with you, because it has been 12 months, and sort of see how you're getting along. I guess the Hyder stuff is the exciting new part to the story here, and it better be freaking good, as you say. So I'll stay in touch. Okay.
Right on. Sounds good, and they are good. They're spectacular, in fact. So we'll definitely be in touch, and particularly after we make a new discovery.